When I look at what is coming out, and recently has been for Tomb Raider, I think we are in this really good place. We have some really cool stuff out right now, like with the likes of that original remaster set. A large and vocal group of the fanbase have been shouting for years that they wanted their classic Lara Croft back, with the dual pistols, the sass, and the traditional sense of adventure. Those fans didn't feel like the Survivor Trilogy captured that aspect, and was something among other things that was missing within those games. It's often rare to feel this way within the games industry, but those fans, last year, I think finally felt like they were heard. The Tomb Raider remasters for 1, 2, and 3 came back. It was this nice collection set providing the first 3 games together, with an excellent brand new coat of paint. These titles played like the classics because they were the classics. Apparently Aspyr and Saber even got talented fans to come work on these remasters as well. And you know what? It shows. Now while I think many of these vocal fans wanting for the return of their classic Tomb Raider to come back probably would have loved to see a new entry retain many of those core tenets and elements of the classic Lara, but these remasters, developed with care and respect, showed that at least these developers were listening and trying to address that part of the fanbase, while also allowing for Tomb Raider fans who maybe never played the originals, and maybe they started and loved the Survivor Trilogy, but now they could actually see how Lara even started. It was a situation where it only seemed like a net positive for the franchise. Oddly enough, by pleasing this group of hardcore fans resulted in a net win all around. Those fans asking for this were happy, new fans had a chance to play these games, and the collection sold well. I think the same thing could be the same kind of win if another trilogy was also remastered. Those remasters led to where we are now, helping to sort of set Lara Croft on this positive swing, and maybe even help to start unifying the fanbase. This success led to the announcement of the second remastered trilogy, being developed again by Aspyr and Saber, planning to deliver The Last Revelation, Chronicles, and Angel of Darkness. The first 2 titles of this collection are more in line with how the PS1 games played, but Angel of Darkness was a whole new beast. This was supposed to be the start of a brand new trilogy. Sadly, that didn't happen due to the game failing to deliver in many areas, especially the sales. While I understand it that it has many dedicated fans, personally it's the one game out of the next collection that I'm very interested in. It would seem that because of the success of the first set, this new one seems to be a bit more ambitious. They are restoring and adding back cut content from Angel of Darkness, and from all accounts aiming to provide the definitive version of that game. This is great to see. Based on their prior work, I have some confidence that they will hopefully be able to deliver, but it has not been released yet. This is where I direct your attention to where we can go from here. What should Aspyr and Saber do next? Based on an article from last year, they are interested in doing more with the Tomb Raider franchise. One would assume that the first selling well doesn't hurt either, but this is where I direct your attention to, and now I'm directly speaking to Aspyr and Saber. If there's a way to remaster the Tomb Raider Legend games into one package, I know that I'm not alone in saying this, but I would love to see this happen. Honestly, I might even buy it on multiple platforms. If you have seen any of my prior Tomb Raider videos before, then you know that I absolutely adore this trilogy. I respect this franchise and appreciate all things about it, and appreciate all that it brings. I even enjoyed the Survivor Trilogy, while acknowledging its flaws too. But for me, the Legend Trilogy, that version of Lara Croft, that is who I think of when I think of the character. Tomb Raider Legend, the first entry within that trilogy, was the very first Tomb Raider game that I beat. At the time, I was really getting into platformers, and I saw the trailer and then was instantly sold. What I found was a game that was a brisk treasure hunting story, with a Hollywood-like production, and even some dashes of James Bond thrown in as well, with some good globetrotting. I loved it, and still do. The game has a lot of focus on its platforming. You'll be doing all manner of jumps, swings, and shimmying to get to these areas. Puzzles are present, but for longtime fans, they do lean more in the easier direction. And as someone who loves the game, I will even admit that. There's only a little bit of head scratching. You kinda know where you need to go, but the variety in locations and creativity is another asset. You get the traditional set of tombs with lush environments, along with some really fun, more modern areas to jump and platform your way through, like in Japan in one sequence, where there is a tomb hidden within a King Arthur museum. Gunplay is seen as an even split between the jumping, and I really like the combat system here. You are using more of a lock-on system and can perform a variety of swift movements to dodge enemy fire or even stun foes. Graphically, the game looks good. Looks even better on PC, and the soundtrack, wow, I love the music from this trilogy. While not everything is perfect, with the use of, say, the QuickTime events being something of their time, and generally the boss fights could be a little bit better, but as an overall experience, I loved it. Plus the story was good too, as it mixed in globetrotting treasure hunting adventure, and then tied that in with Lara's parents. There's a sense of enjoying the thrill of the chase that you get a lot from this game. Personally, I think it's a great entry point for anyone new to the franchise. The next entry within the trilogy was Tomb Raider Anniversary. I think this title very much challenged me, much more than the prior one. So this was actually a prequel to Legend and a remake to the very first game all wrapped up into one. Think the gameplay from Legend, but now done in the original-like design, where Legend had constant communication with her and her team, and while I enjoyed that for story purposes, Lara was now alone in Anniversary. There was a strong sense of isolation. It was you, Lara, and a tomb. While the game had frequent checkpoints, which for someone like me I appreciated a lot, the game was still very challenging because you needed to do a lot of figuring it out to solve many of the areas. Combat took a backseat now with it being secondary, and the puzzles and the platforming took center stage. Like I said, the game was challenging for me, but it was through this older design and having it in line with the Legend gameplay that I was able to then grow as a Tomb Raider player. I found myself getting better with the game, seeing how to identify environmental clues better. The game is full of those aha moments, and that very much makes the player feel smart after being able to piece things together. Story-wise, it's much more plot-focused, with a little touch here and there related to Lara's father. For me, this seemed like a really good blend between old and new, and as someone who generally does not want remakes, I felt like this one was able to retain and honor about what made the original so special, while also providing this new spin on it too. After coming off a Legend, I felt like I got more of a traditional tomb raiding experience from Anniversary, and I will always appreciate it for how it challenged me. The last part of the Legend trilogy is with Underworld. Now let me just start out, this game is still a looker. You get this running on a PC, wow, it looks good. Those water effects are pretty sweet as well. The title suffered a bit from a troubled development, and you can really feel it in many areas. It's rougher and not as smooth as the last two entries. Even the real ending to the game is locked away on the 360 as exclusive DLC, never released on PC or PS3. Underworld, despite many of these things, is still an excellent experience. It sort of hits this perfect blend between the new Legend trilogy, along with incorporating more of that traditional Tomb Raider elements. So in fact, it's like a blend between Legend and Anniversary. I also think it managed to do assists and hints well for the player. So oftentimes when you play these games, you're gonna get stuck at some point. In Underworld, there's an optional hint system that will give you clues, so you can go to your PDA and actually click to give you each hint. These are completely optional. If you don't want them, you never need to engage with them, and it doesn't interfere with the game. If you require an assist, you can choose to use them. This, I think, is a smart system, in that it can make both experienced and more general players want to play this game and get the experience they want. The focus in Underworld is more on the platforming and the puzzle solving, with it being more of a three-way split with all of those and then the combat. Combat is good. Some changes are appreciated. You even get to use some fun items towards the end of the game. But if I had to pick, I think Legend has to be my favorite of the combat of the three. Underworld is indeed the roughest out of the three, and would benefit from the most attention. But these three games are really good titles. I love them, and I want Aspyr and Saber to know that I would love to see them remastered, and I don't think I'm alone. So where do we go from here? I would ask Saber and Aspyr to look to the Legend trilogy for your next set of remasters. While yes, the games, all three of them, generally still play very well today, and even still look really good, you can still opt to make a new coat of paint if you want to go in that direction, as long as we can shift back to the classic and newer graphics. If they feel these games look good as it is, then I would ask for higher frame rates and resolutions for these titles. Along with that, if there's any cut content that we don't know about for either of these games, and it can be recovered, that would be a great inclusion. Underworld should probably receive the most attention. It honestly needs the most work out of the bunch. The camera needs some refinements, including the exclusive levels too, and any other cut content from the game, along with potentially addressing the other flaws. I know that I'm not alone in asking for this remaster. I have spoken to many other fans that feel the same way I do. They just simply enjoy these games. Personally, I think all these games should be remastered, even the digital ones, and the portable games too. These remasters are a celebration of the franchise, so then celebrate each era of those games. The Legend Trilogy may not be the original ones, but the team that made those games obviously had a love for the character and wanted to do right by it, while also having their own spin on it. These games are also not universally found everywhere, except on PC. For example, none of them are on the Switch. Only one is on the PS4 and 5, with the Xbox having all three, but the console versions are locked at 30 FPS. And with modern tech, and after playing the stuff on the PC, we want those higher performance options now. I know I'm biased, I love these games, but in this video, while I am specifically asking for the Legend remasters, I do think that all of Lara's history should be on all major platforms. Continue to celebrate the legacy, continue to honor it. You've done a very good job so far. I just don't want this train to end. What are your thoughts on all this? Would you like to see the Tomb Raider Legend titles remastered? What fixes and adjustments would you like to see? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.